Americans invite
Dr. Kambon and Mrs. Sister Thornton. And of course, let me, over the last 7 or 8 minutes that we have during this final segment for today, Dr. Kambon, give you and Sister Thornton an opportunity to sort of leave our audience with some parting thoughts dealing with this whole idea of Africa study a world dimension, indicating that we are all interested in trying to create an environment whereby more knowledge can be spread dealing with Africa. Let's give you an opportunity to say something.
Sure. Well, I think that certainly one of the challenges that we talked about in the last segment is that we have to, as African people, we have to confront our demons, and we have several within and without, and certainly our miseducation, the misinformation we have about Africa, about our history, about our culture, which is ASCAC is certainly the primary organization, not the only one, but certainly the primary organization that's focused on correcting that situation for our people and institutionalizing the African-centered knowledge. So we certainly have to confront that and if we are going to overthrow this oppression, this domination by Eurocentric reality and transform ourselves into the self-determined people that we should be. I want to mention the fact that I have a new book coming out this summer entitled Cultural Misorientation, The Greatest Threat to the Survival of the Black Race and in the 21st Century. And in that book, I'm trying to, first of all, articulate the nature of this problem as it impacts us psychologically, of misinformation, miseducation, and how it indoctrinates us to a Eurocentric reality and confuses us and make us believe that that reality is our reality. And so therefore, we will continue to operate in a way that this empowers us, our people, rather than empowering our people. So certainly, that's a great challenge, and I do a much better job than I could do here in the few minutes we have to articulate the basic message there. But it certainly attempts to sound an alarm to our people, to focus us around what are the deficits that living in a Eurocentric society and culture has created for our people. And then how do we utilize the information that's presented by ASCAC and the literature that is being developed as African-centered to empower ourselves as a people and create new institutions that begin to preserve and protect our interests as African people.
I think, Mrs. Thornton, we mentioned earlier, we talked about Du Bois and all of that, and all of these things simply go back a long, long way in terms of, and I think Dr. Kambon, you're talking about the miseducation of the Negro. I mean, that's the same, I mean, and it never stops. So where do you stand in reference to that? I mean, how do you see that?
Well, we talked about the challenges, and I see it's a major challenge in trying to get our information to the institutions. That's a major, major challenge. So I see education on many, many fronts. I don't limit it to the institution. The institution right now really is our enemy, so why waste your energy pushing and trying to get through? It's one of the spaces, but it's not the only space. Take it out to where the masses of our people are. Develop study groups. Have people coming into your homes and talking to you. Have lectures and lecture series and get the information there. Give it to your young people. Because sometimes they said the old heads, the older people, or those who think in that way, they're lost to the system. But we need to really feed it to our young people. And they're not going to always want to hear it in the public institution. They'll come out to a lecture series and hear it and be open to it. I think we need to take it into every apartment building, every home, every place, and give the information to our people. That's what education really is. It's old once it gets to the institution. It's not new anymore. It's old. It's old. So bring it out to where the masses of our people are, because you need a base, a broad base to support you. You can't stay at the apex of that pyramid and expect to be supported. Our masses are our broad base, and that will carry us forward.
So it seems to me that we're saying that February African American History Month is no longer appropriate, in the sense that it has to be a 12-month kind of activity in terms of touching more lives than you could possibly touch during a month. Is that what we're saying, Dr. Campbell?
Well, it may be appropriate for non-African people, but it's never been appropriate for African people. I mean, we have to live in a holistic way in terms of every day is African-centered day.
Expand upon that, and I think that's a concept that folks rarely think of in terms of February, the lone month for African American history and et cetera, being appropriate. You say it's never been appropriate for African.
Well, of course. Well, when your reality centers on you, and so therefore it is you, and so you can't segment that or fragment that into some fixed aspect of period of time like February. I mean, that's a strategy that comes from outside of the African community, not within the African community. Our history is us. So it is lived every day, and we must experience it every day. So when we have these artificial fragmentations, that is because the enemies of African people are imposing their reality on us and saying that we can devote this kind of compartmental time to who and what we are, when the reality of it is they're willing to devote that. It should be about us all the time, for us, from our center.
So it's an everyday kind of activity.
And that's self-empowering. That's what empowerment is about. That's what self-determination is about, not letting others define what our significant aspects of our life should be.
And you see, the month that was defined for us is the shortest month of the year.
Okay, very good.
Probably by design.
Okay,
No doubt.
And of course, this organization that the two of you represent during the final 3 or 4 minutes that we have here, Dr. Kambon, this organization is an organization that reaches all over the United States of America, and I think, Sister Thornton, you're the president of the Eastern Division. Now, what are the states that compose this Eastern Division, and what are you doing in terms of trying to promote some of the things we've talked about here?
Okay, well, Eastern region is comprised of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and Toronto, Canada. We have study groups where we read basically our African history, our history along the Nile, the River Nile, and we study our culture. We meet basically once a month, once bi-monthly, depending upon the area, where it's appropriate within the region. One thing the Eastern region does, we go every July to the home of Harriet Tubman. We do a ritual at her gravesite. We invoke her presence within our being to give us strength and courage to go forward like she did, to replicate some of what she did, some of the things that we do in the region. We give conferences. Each region gives a mini conference every year, and that's some of the things that we do in the Eastern region. We have a newsletter going out to Eastern region members. So we do a lot of work in the Eastern region. All the regions do a lot of work.
Yeah,
in 5 regions. In 5 regions. Yeah.
I think all of the regions duplicate what she's saying, and ASCAC is global. So we have international members, and chapters as well, and so we exist in Africa, we exist throughout the Caribbean, we exist in Europe, where African people are in Europe. So we are global, and so we have these kind of activities and creating this institution of redefinition and dissemination of African information throughout the globe for African people.
Okay, and of course we're nearing the end of our show for today, and I want to thank the two of you for coming by and giving us that excellent information, but we still have a couple of minutes to go. I just wanted to thank you before we ran out of time here. But what I'd like to do over the last couple of minutes is to give the two of you an opportunity to have a final comment, minute comment in terms of some of the things that you think that you ought to leave with our audience relative to this African worldwide perspective that we're talking about. Why don't you take a minute to do that, Sister Thornton? And of course, then Dr. Kambon will do the same thing.
Well, I think that one of the main things our people need to do is to study, to search their area and find a place where people are studying about their history, their culture, not as an enslaved people, but a people prior to enslavement. I think we need to understand all aspects of our history, the culture, the history, the economics, every aspect of life we belong to, and we need to understand every aspect of life because we began all the aspects of life we began. As a spiritual person, I would say that we gave the concept of the deity to the planet, and that we need to retake that back, recapture that.
Very good, Dr. Kambon.
Well, I'd like to see young people begin to question the reality of this cultural that we exist in, called Eurocentric culture. And the way we do that is begin to pursue information about our true history and culture that is emphasized in the context of ASCAC. And I think once we begin to do that, it will feed itself, and it will continue to feed itself, and we will desire more and more. And I think it will become self-empowering, and we will understand the importance of institutionalizing that and spreading that throughout the community.
Very good. And let me thank the two of you over the last 10 seconds that we have here for coming by and giving us that excellent information about a global dimension and a world perspective in terms of African studies. And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.